a lot of thinking as of late. A lot of reassessing things, a lot of thinking about how to find more purpose in things as of late. Doing the same things I've done before, but just slightly different. As you dig deeper into yourself and you kind of like realize, what are really the important things, because you have time to think now. It's easy to put aside everything when you're like, yeah, I gotta go to a meeting. I gotta take this call. I gotta be on set. I think sometimes, I think the pandemic was nice because it just gave us time to think. It was a whole lot of time, but definitely necessary. I think that, sometimes we're just all like, yeah, well, I got pain too. Like I don't really, you got pain, I got pain. It is what it is, right? But then sometimes you realize that, like we're all in this place because all of us are too busy minding ourselves, that we never take the time to check in with each other and realize like, your pain is actually my pain too. And if we talk about this, we might be able to figure this out. And I think that's what happened, is that everyone finally had the time to talk. Work wasn't calling, there was nothing to do, nowhere to go. And all you had was just kind of like each other at that moment to kind of like really dive in to see, what was going on with everybody. So I think that was like, if you're wondering what the crash was, I think that was the crash. You know what I mean? Like when, staying at home and just, having just more time to analyze and understand why our world is like this, it's heavy. It's heavy to understand it. People, needed you when you were this person, but now that, you kind of like, everyone kind of gets broken down to like their bare bones, like, where are you now? Like, who am I to you? Like, what is my significance to you in your life? So it kind of makes you think of yourself very differently too. You know what I mean? I felt like I got very like self-conscious during that time. You know what I mean? Like just really like, like, so if I don't throw a party for you this week, like, will you call? If I don't have like a gig for you and, hire you for something, like, will you call? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going through some shit, will you call? You know what I mean? Like, will you just call just to see me, like, or just to say, just to ask how I'm doing, like, is that a thing? So, a lot of that like kind of kicks into play and you understand, like, that you might have overvalued a lot of things and a lot of people in your life. And it's sad on one hand, but it's also like very relieving. Fatherhood, or like being a parent, or having time for yourself, or even like exercising, or even like looking after your mental health, like that all comes as like we kind of sometimes put that as like a luxury, like get these things done first, everything on my calendar done first. When that's done, I'll be a father. When that's done, I'll go work out. When that's done, I'll go meditate and, think about like my health. But when that's done, right? And I think that what I kind of learned to do was that, I had to kind of treat me being a parent, me being a partner, me just being a person, and having to like learning how to schedule that into my calendar as well. That like there'd be all these things, all these meetings, but I'm like, okay, from this time to this time, I'm not doing anything. Like this is when I'm gonna be a dad. To be honest, like I never really took like, physical health to be that important. I was just like, yeah, I'm young, I'm invincible, like what's gonna hurt me? You know what I mean? I could party and drink, stay up all night, never get sleep, you know what I mean? Eat what I want, I'll be fine. I'm young. And then you kind of just realize that, like, I'm not, and that illusion of like, youth being, making you like this, like, indestructible being is not real. And truth is, I'm not even as young as I think I am, So I'm, I just got to be like honest with myself and be like, if I want to be here for the long haul and be here with my children, and I have all these things to achieve and accomplish, then I need to have a proper machine and vehicle to get me there. It's gonna be a long trip. Got to make sure the car's right. I think the pandemic was nice because it kind of forced you to recalibrate, right? It was like, okay, where am I really going? Like, do I even want to go here? You know what I mean? Like, do I even like this car? And I think that coming out of it, it made me just like, really think about what is it that I've like lost along the way, and like, how do I get back to doing things that like fulfill me on a soulful level, on an emotional level. And, I think that I just had to kind of like a couple course corrections, a couple of like mentality changes, a couple of things where I felt like I needed to kind of put finances or like financial gain aside and go back to like emotional or, like I said, soulful fulfillment. Um, so it's almost like, you start all over again, but the nice part about starting all over again now is that you have more knowledge this time than you did last time. As a father, you're always so busy, like thinking about like the next generation, like what is it going to be for when my children grow up, like what is this world that I'm leaving behind? Instead of me asking what kind of world am I leaving behind, it's like, okay, cool. Well, what am I going to do about it? Right. My kid's like about to be 9. My oldest is about to be 9. Let's say he's like, out here by like 15. That's like 2 generations away. Right. So if I'm not doing what I got to do right now for these young kids right now, then what are these young kids leaving for my kid? You know what I'm saying? So it's important for me to go back and get them now, help them now, and give them everything I got, not just selfishly for my own son, but like, because it's for the betterment of everything going on, like at the end of the day, like you want to be proud of where you come from. You want to be able to say, I'm from Toronto and, it's the greatest city in the world, and really mean that. I was always jumping around. I never belonged anywhere, I'd get settled and then we'd have to leave, so these blocks, like they raised me, they're a part of like my upbringing, but when people ask me where I'm from, I don't really have anywhere to say, because it's like, I don't know, like I've moved 7 times, like where am I really from? Like if you go back to the block, I don't know if anyone remembers me. I was there for such a short amount of time, but Queen Street, we were there for 10 years. That's longer than I've been anywhere, so that block defined me, like I was Queen Street West, what I'm saying? But do people say I'm Bloor and Dixie? Do people say I'm like, Keelan Falstaff? No, but everyone will say I'm from Queen, and that's what I mean by some blocks raised me and some blocks made me. I think I relate like, grade 7 as like the most like important year of my life, which is like basically 96, 97. So basically I watched this movie. It's called Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. And, my whole life I just thought like Bruce Lee was just like some kung fu dude, who just beat people up all the time. And then I watched this biographical movie on him, and it's like he moves from Hong Kong to San Francisco, tries to find his place there, deals with racism, so a lot of discrimination, marries a white woman, goes through the battles of that, tries to make it in like, the movie industry, but just keeps on getting like, screwed over left, right, and center. Find out that he's a super philosophical person and, thinks very deeply about the way his culture is perceived and his community is perceived. And in everything that he does, it's about bringing people together to understand his culture better, because he felt that the reason why people are scared of things is because of ignorance, right? When you don't know something or you don't know about something, it's easy to be scared of it because there's so many unknowns. But when you take the time to learn a culture, you take the time to learn a person, you take the time to find the beauty in them, and then that takes away, all the fears that you would have had about, a culture, a person, or whatever. It takes the threat away and it makes them human. So photography for me has always been very documentational, if that's a word. Never really cared to do photo shoots, never really cared to do like, amazing technical things. I think there's a lot of beauty in just like regular everyday life. And I think that there is something very special if you can do something that allows people to time travel. And what I mean by time travel is like being able to take them back to a moment in time, like looking at this photo of me and you that day, like you now remember that, we were at the park and you said this and, oh yeah, we went there after, and then she came by and this, that, that. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that as an artist, like your greatest skill is being able to allow people to time travel. If you're a cook or a chef, you know what I mean? If you make a dish that's so good that it makes someone think about their grandma when they eat it, or that time that they visited during that summer, you're amazing. That's what that is. I think that, true artistry allows you to go either forward or backward in time. But that is true artistry to me. It's very hard to kind of like, validate yourself and say you did a good job when you're so busy watching people ahead of you. It doesn't matter how far you are because there's still people ahead of me. So I don't have time to look up. They'll tell you, when you're in a race, don't look back when you're running, just race, just go. Right. But I think, you just got to realize that this actually isn't a race. This is just a nice cruise. Like, go through life and enjoy it. Look around, look left, look right, look up, look down, look back, and I guess that's the thing too. Like, imagine like, when you're driving in your car, you don't really see much. But when you're the passenger, you see a whole lot, and I think that's what I need to learn to do, is that sometimes be a passenger in my own life, you know what I mean? And just kind of like appreciate this and just hands off the wheel, let someone kind of like, guide me for a little second, and just kind of like enjoy my moments. Taking that time, once again, to kind of just really take in your world and your environment and everything around you. You know what I mean? Like, in your car, you can't smell, like the flowers that you walk by, or like, the food that's in the restaurants that you walk by, or like, like hear all the sounds because you're playing your music, or, or the radio's on. You don't get to hear what life sounds like around you. You know what I mean? You're so in your bubble. And I think that when you're walking, like you're like, your foot is on the ground, like it's with the earth, it's different. Like, I don't know if you've ever like laid down like in the grass, but the world sounds very different when you're laying down in the grass. I don't know if like, I think there's probably a bit of science to that, but like it's strange, like having conversations when your head is on the ground. Just a strange observation I made. As secure as I may seem or may tell myself that I am, I think that there's still a lot of insecurities that I've always shelved away, that I've never really taken the time to understand. And it shows in a lot of things, but it only shows now that I've taken the time to like really think about myself. You know what I mean? Like, I've always kind of just like, oh, that's actually not insecurity. That's just me being whatever, and I just throw that aside. But then I realized that, maybe the reason why I need, this instant, gratification sometimes, or instant effect of something, is because I don't really know who I am. Maybe that's why I do so many things. Maybe that's why I do like have 10 different jobs or work on 10 different projects. Because it's like, I manage music, I manage artists, but it's like, is this where I belong? Like, do the people in the music industry look at me like the way that I want to be seen? I'm in the fashion game, but the people in the fashion game like think I belong? I'm in nightlife. Do they think I belong? I'm Asian. Do they think I belong? You know what I mean? I'm from Toronto, or I'm from wherever, like, do they think I belong? And I think that's a lot of questions that like, sometimes I don't really ask myself. You know what I mean? And it's like, on one hand, it's like my insecurity, my discomfort with everything that I am, makes me act out. It makes me sometimes ask for things and need things that I don't need. On the other hand, I think that my insecurity, my discomfort also pushes me to work really hard, right? And pushes me to really find out like, who am I? Like, I think I'm in this constant, struggle of like understanding who I am, and what I'm actually meant to do, because you have an image all the time of like who you're supposed to be. But, I also thought I was supposed to be a teacher, teaching like kids in high school, like my path turned out to be very, very different from that. I think that comes from like, maybe like our parents never really like, making us question who we were as children. You know what I mean? Like, our parents, being like, immigrants, just, they were just providing the necessities of like, shelter and a home, but they never really dug in to like, ask us these questions. And because they never did, you probably never valued it. You never valued the concept of identity, the concept of purpose. Like, I'll ask my parents, like what their purpose is sometimes, and they're just like, oh, whatever, I'm gonna die soon. What does it matter? Like, it's getting closer, this, that, and that, you know, and like, this is just my life now, you know, like, what, you know, what's the point of dreaming? There's not enough time. Like, I can't do anything anyways. Like, and, you know, in my mind, I'm like, you know, you're only like 50, 60 years old. Like, you know, so much time. It's only half your life. You know, if you live to 100, you're only at the 50% mark. For me, it's like, you know, building that next generation and and supporting them instead of competing with them. There's no point. The same way that there was no point in anyone competing against me back in the day, you know. And then you get to a level, and then you just have to understand that, you know, your objectives have to change, and your role changes, and your responsibilities change, and you just got to play your role, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. It was kind of hard, you know, to kind of like really come to accept that, you know, I'm not that young boy anymore, and that people start calling you an OG. It's kind of strange. It's nice, it's still strange. You know, when people start calling you sir, it's weird too. But it's also nice to be able to see, you know, like how you affect them, you know, and then like kind of see like yourself, like, oh, this was me, you know, like this is how happy I was when I had this person around helping me, you know. It feels nice. It feels very rewarding, you know, to be that person for them. Every time I try a new thing, I try to find a way to really cement myself in that place. And I think that in that, I try to find people that are like me, you know, that could be like my tribe, so to speak. You know what I mean? And because that I've never belonged anywhere or like even taken the time to learn anything properly, I think that's, you know, my gift and curse, you know, that I don't really know what I'm doing half the time, but me not knowing what I'm doing half the time makes me a little bit more resourceful, makes me a bit more innovative, if that, you know. But I think I guess that's what it is. You know, I think I'm just trying to find a place to belong, you know, and if no one wants me to be in their home, then I'm just gonna build my own. And then I'm gonna invite them all over, you know, because I know what it feels like.